The clock on the wall seemed to mock Sarah, each tick echoing the chaos in her mind. It was only 9 a.m. and already she felt like she'd worked a full day. A grumpy customer complaining about insurance, a spilled bottle of cough syrup, and a phone ringing nonstop, it was all adding up. Sarah worked as a pharmacy technician at the local drugstore, a job she usually enjoyed, but some days were just harder. She rubbed her tired eyes, wishing she could just have 5 minutes of peace. Her station was a mess, little stacks of papers threatening to topple over at any moment. She sighed, pushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, adding to the general feeling of unease. Sarah glanced at the growing line of customers, each one a potential problem waiting to happen. She knew she needed to focus, to take a deep breath and get through the morning. But it was hard. Really hard. Especially when she was already running on empty. Little did she know the morning was about to get a whole lot worse, and it would all start with a simple prescription slip and a kind, elderly gentleman. Her actions would impact more than just her morning. They would lead to a valuable lesson she wouldn't soon forget. Just then, a bell chimed softly as the front door opened, signaling a new arrival. Mr. Johnson shuffled in, leaning slightly on a wooden cane. He was an older gentleman, his face etched with wrinkles that spoke of a life well lived. His eyes, though, were kind and bright, twinkling with a gentle warmth. He wore a faded baseball cap with the words Vietnam Veteran stitched across the front. He walked slowly, carefully making his way to Sarah's counter. He smiled politely as he approached, his movements deliberate. There was an air of quiet dignity about him, a sense of calm that seemed to contrast sharply with Sarah's frazzled state. "Good morning," he said, his voice a little raspy but still friendly. "I have a prescription to drop off." He reached into his worn leather wallet and carefully extracted a folded piece of paper. His hands, slightly shaky, unfolded the slip, revealing the doctor's handwriting. He gently placed it on the counter in front of Sarah. Mr. Johnson was a regular at the pharmacy. Sarah knew him, or at least she thought she did. He always had a kind word for everyone, and he never complained, even when the wait was long. He was the kind of customer who made her job a little bit easier, a small ray of sunshine in an otherwise hectic day. But today, Sarah was too preoccupied to notice. Sarah barely glanced at Mr. Johnson as she reached for the prescription. Her mind was still racing, replaying the earlier customer's complaints. Without looking, she swiped the paper towards her, intending to scan it quickly. But her hand slipped on the slick counter, and instead of neatly grabbing the slip, her fingernail caught the edge. Rip! The sound echoed in the otherwise quiet pharmacy. Mr. Johnson's prescription tore, a jagged line running right through the middle of the doctor's instructions. Sarah's eyes widened in horror. This was the last thing she needed. Mr. Johnson's face fell slightly, a flicker of disappointment crossing his kind eyes. He had carefully kept that slip intact, and now it was ruined. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. She knew she should apologize, but the stress of the morning had taken its toll. Instead of admitting her mistake, a wave of frustration washed over her. She could feel her cheeks burning. This little accident felt like the final straw. The dam inside her was about to break. All she wanted was for the morning to be over, and now this. This small, ripped piece of paper felt like the weight of the world on her shoulders. Instead of apologizing, Sarah snapped, "Seriously? Now I have to deal with this." Her voice was sharp and her tone was accusatory, as if Mr. Johnson had intentionally caused the damage. She glared at the ripped slip as if it were a personal affront. Mr. Johnson blinked, clearly taken aback by her reaction. He hadn't expected such a harsh response. "I'm sorry," he stammered, "I didn't mean to." "Well, it's ripped now, isn't it?" Sarah interrupted, her voice rising. "I don't have time for this. You'll have to get a new one." She shoved the torn pieces back towards him across the counter, not even bothering to look him in the eye. Mr. Johnson's shoulders slumped slightly. He carefully gathered the pieces of the prescription, his fingers trembling a little. He mumbled something about going back to the doctor's office, his voice barely audible. The kindness that had been so evident in his eyes just moments before had vanished, replaced by a look of hurt and confusion. He turned to leave, his cane tapping softly on the floor as he walked slowly away. Sarah watched him go, a knot of guilt forming in her stomach, but she pushed it down, telling herself she was too busy to worry about it. She had other customers to serve, other problems to solve. She just wanted Mr. Johnson gone. Standing a few feet away, observing the entire exchange, was Dr. Lee. She was a tall woman with a kind face and short, neatly cropped hair. She wore her military uniform with pride, the medals on her chest glinting softly in the fluorescent light. Dr. Lee was a familiar face at the pharmacy, often picking up prescriptions for her patients at the nearby military base. She had been waiting patiently in line, listening as Sarah interacted with Mr. Johnson. At first, she thought Sarah was simply having a bad day. But as Sarah's tone became increasingly harsh, Dr. Lee felt a surge of anger rise within her. She watched in disbelief as Mr. Johnson, a man who clearly deserved respect, was treated with such blatant disrespect. Dr. Lee had served her country for many years, and she had seen firsthand the sacrifices that veterans like Mr. Johnson had made. She believed that they deserved to be treated with the utmost courtesy and consideration, not rudeness and impatience. She couldn't stand by and watch Sarah's behavior go unchecked. She knew she had to do something, not just for Mr. Johnson, but for all the veterans who might be treated similarly in the future. It was a matter of principle, and Dr. Lee was not one to back down from what she believed was right. Dr. Lee walked calmly to the counter, her footsteps measured and deliberate. She addressed Mr. Johnson first, her voice warm and reassuring. "Sir, are you all right? I saw what happened." She offered him a gentle smile. "Don't worry about the prescription. I know Dr. Miller well. I can call his office and have them fax a new one over right away. It'll only take a few minutes. In the meantime, please have a seat." She then turned her attention to Sarah, her expression firm but not unkind. "Excuse me," she said, her voice clear and steady. "I understand you're busy, but that gentleman is a veteran. He deserves our respect. Tearing his prescription was an accident, but your reaction was uncalled for." Dr. Lee's words were measured and calm, but there was an undeniable authority in her voice. She wasn't yelling or being aggressive, but she was making it clear that Sarah's behavior was unacceptable. She then guided Mr. Johnson to a chair and pulled out her cell phone, ready to make the call that would solve the immediate problem. She wanted to ease Mr. Johnson's burden as fast as she could. The look of relief on Mr. Johnson's face was all the thanks she needed. Sarah, however, did not appreciate being corrected, especially in front of the other customers. Her cheeks flushed even redder, and her initial guilt morphed into defiance. "Who do you think you are?" she retorted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I'm just trying to do my job. I didn't mean to rip the stupid paper." She crossed her arms, her body language radiating hostility. "Besides," she continued, "it's not like I insulted him or anything. It was just a mistake. He'll get over it." Dr. Lee lowered her phone slightly, her eyebrows furrowing. "It's not just about the paper, Sarah," she said, her voice remaining calm but firm. "It's about how you treated him. He's a veteran. He served our country. He deserves more respect than that." "Oh, so now I'm supposed to bow down to every veteran who walks in here?" Sarah scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Give me a break. I have other customers to deal with." She turned her back on Dr. Lee and began to pointedly assist the next person in line, completely ignoring Dr. Lee and Mr. Johnson. She thought that was the end of it. She couldn't have been more wrong. Dr. Lee watched Sarah turn away, her disappointment deepening. It wasn't just the disrespect towards Mr. Johnson, it was the complete lack of empathy and understanding. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her military ID, and showed it to the pharmacist, who was now watching the scene with wide eyes. "I'm Dr. Lee from the base," she said, her voice low but firm. "I'm lodging a formal complaint about this employee's behavior. And until I hear back from corporate, I'm going to ensure she doesn't treat anyone else this way." With that, Dr. Lee reached across the counter and, before Sarah could react, gently but firmly unclipped Sarah's employee badge. Sarah gasped, spinning around in shock. "What are you doing?" she demanded, her voice shaking with anger. Dr. Lee held up the badge, her gaze unwavering. "This isn't a punishment, Sarah," she said, "it's a reminder. A reminder that every person who walks through that door deserves to be treated with respect, especially those who have served our country. You'll get this back when I am certain you understand that." The pharmacy went silent, everyone watching the unfolding drama. Sarah felt a mix of anger, embarrassment, and a growing sense of dread. She knew she had messed up, and now she was facing the consequences. The weight of the situation crashed down on Sarah. Without her badge, she couldn't access the medication cabinets, she couldn't ring up customers, she couldn't do anything. She was effectively sidelined, publicly shamed in front of her coworkers and the remaining customers. The embarrassment was almost unbearable. More than the professional implications, though, was the dawning realization of her own behavior. She replayed the scene in her head, Mr. Johnson's kind face, his gentle demeanor, and her own sharp, dismissive words. A wave of shame washed over her. She had been so focused on her own problems, so caught up in her own stress, that she had completely disregarded the feelings of another human being. She thought about Mr. Johnson walking away, his shoulders slumped, the torn prescription clutched in his hand. Where was he going to go? How long would it take him to get another prescription? And more importantly, how had she made him feel? The anger she had felt just moments before dissipated, replaced by a profound sense of regret. She had acted selfishly and carelessly, and she had hurt someone in the process. The reality of her actions hit her hard. It wasn't just a bad morning anymore, it was a reflection of her own character, and she didn't like what she saw. Tears welled up in her eyes. She finally understood the seriousness of her actions. Flashback. The scene shifts. We see a young Mr. Johnson, not old and frail, but strong and vibrant. He's in the middle of a dense jungle wearing a military uniform. The air is thick with humidity and the sounds of gunfire echo in the distance. He's carrying a heavy pack on his back, his face streaked with dirt and sweat. He's part of a team and they're moving cautiously through the undergrowth. Suddenly, an explosion rocks the ground. A fellow soldier cries out in pain, clutching his leg. Without hesitation, Mr. Johnson rushes to his side, ignoring the danger. He quickly assesses the injury and begins to apply first aid, his hands moving with practiced efficiency. More gunfire erupts and bullets whiz past them. Mr. Johnson shields the injured soldier with his own body, risking his life to protect his comrade. He shouts for help and other members of the team rush to their aid. They manage to drag the injured soldier to safety thanks to Mr. Johnson's quick thinking and selfless bravery. End flashback. The scene returns to the pharmacy. Sarah's eyes are wide with tears. The flashback, though she didn't literally see it, played out in her mind as she imagined what Mr. Johnson had gone through. She now understood on a deeper level the sacrifices he had made. It wasn't just about a ripped piece of paper, it was about honoring the service and dedication of a man who had put his life on the line for his country. Sarah's remorse was now profound. She thought about all the times she had seen veterans like Mr. Johnson wearing their caps and jackets, and she had never truly considered what they had been through. She had always been too busy, too preoccupied with her own life, to appreciate their sacrifices. Now, she felt a deep sense of shame and a strong desire to make amends. She knew she had to apologize, not just to Mr. Johnson, but to Dr. Lee as well. She had been rude and disrespectful to both of them, and she needed to take responsibility for her actions. But how could she possibly make things right? How could she undo the hurt she had caused? The weight of her mistake felt heavy on her shoulders. She stood there, badgeless and humbled, realizing that her actions had consequences. It wasn't just about a ripped prescription or a bad morning. It was about treating people with respect and recognizing the sacrifices they had made. She knew she had a lot to learn, and she was finally ready to listen. She had to find Mr. Johnson. She had to apologize. And she had to change. She would not let this define her. She would become a better person. Dr. Lee, noticing Sarah's transformation, approached her again. Her voice was softer now, her eyes filled with understanding. "Sarah," she said gently, "I know you're upset, but I want you to understand why this is so important." She paused, taking a deep breath. "My grandfather," she began, "was a World War II veteran. He rarely spoke about his experiences, but I knew he had seen terrible things. He came home a changed man, carrying scars that no one could see. Dr. Lee continued, "He taught me the importance of respecting those who have served. He always said that freedom isn't free. It's paid for with the sacrifices of brave men and women like Mr. Johnson. They deserve our gratitude, our patience, and our understanding, even when we're having a bad day. I lost him a few years ago," Dr. Lee added, her voice thick with emotion. "And every time I see a veteran, I see a piece of him. Treating them with respect is my way of honoring his memory, and all the others who have served." She looked directly at Sarah, her eyes conveying the depth of her conviction. "It's not about bowing down, Sarah. It's about acknowledging their service and showing them the basic human decency they deserve." Sarah, tears streaming down her face, nodded slowly. "I understand," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "I really do. I was wrong, so wrong. Where did Mr. Johnson go? I need to apologize." Dr. Lee smiled gently. "He's still here. I told him to wait. He's over there by the magazines." Sarah took a deep breath and walked towards Mr. Johnson, her heart pounding in her chest. He was looking at a magazine, seemingly oblivious to her approach. She hesitated for a moment, then cleared her throat. "Mr. Johnson," she said softly. He looked up, his kind eyes meeting hers. She could see a trace of sadness in them, but also a hint of forgiveness. "Mr. Johnson," Sarah began, her voice trembling, "I am so sorry. I was having a terrible morning and I took it out on you. It was completely unfair and you didn't deserve it. I ripped your prescription and then I was rude to you. I hope you can forgive me." She reached out and gently took his hand, her eyes pleading for understanding. "I promise I will never treat anyone like that again, especially not a veteran." Mr. Johnson squeezed her hand gently. There, young lady," he said, his voice soft and forgiving. "We all make mistakes. It's how we learn from them that matters." He smiled warmly, the kindness returning to his eyes. "I appreciate your apology. And I accept it. Now, don't you worry about it anymore. Just try to have a better day." Dr. Lee, who had been watching from a distance, approached them. She smiled at Mr. Johnson. "I have that new prescription for you, sir. It's all ready to go." She handed him the slip, her eyes conveying her respect and gratitude. Then she turned to Sarah, holding out the employee badge. "You've learned a valuable lesson today, Sarah," she said. "And I believe you're sincere in your apology. But remember this feeling. Remember the importance of treating everyone with kindness and respect, especially those who have served our country." She paused, then gently clipped the badge back onto Sarah's uniform. "Learn from this and let it make you a better person." She knew that this was just the beginning of Sarah's journey. She hoped that Sarah would continue to grow and learn from her mistakes. Sarah looked at her badge, then at Mr. Johnson, then back at Dr. Lee. She felt a surge of gratitude and a renewed sense of purpose. She would not let them down. From that day forward, Sarah was a different person. She made a conscious effort to be more patient and understanding with all her customers, regardless of how stressful her day was. She remembered Dr. Lee's words and her grandfather's service, and she made it a point to treat every veteran with the respect and gratitude they deserved. She started paying attention to the veterans who came into the pharmacy, noticing the details she had previously overlooked. The faded baseball caps, the military jackets, the subtle signs of age and hardship. She made an effort to engage them in conversation, asking about their service and thanking them for their sacrifice. She even started volunteering at a local veterans center, helping with administrative tasks and spending time with the residents. She listened to their stories, sharing their laughter and their tears. She learned about their experiences, their struggles, and their triumphs. Sarah's transformation was remarkable. She went from being a stressed-out pharmacy tech who was quick to anger to a compassionate and caring individual who valued every person she encountered. The ripped prescription and the loss of her badge had been a turning point, a catalyst for positive change. She had learned a valuable lesson about respect, empathy, and the importance of honoring those who have served. And she was determined to never forget it. Years later, Sarah was still working at the pharmacy, but she was now the lead technician, a position she earned through her hard work and dedication. She was known throughout the community for her kindness and her willingness to go the extra mile for her customers. One day, Mr. Johnson came into the pharmacy, his steps slower now, his cane more essential. He smiled when he saw Sarah. "Hello, my dear," he said, his voice a little weaker but still filled with warmth. "It's good to see you." Sarah beamed, rushing to his side. "Mr. Johnson, it's so good to see you too. How are you feeling?" He chuckled. "Getting old, just like everyone else. But I'm doing all right. Just need to pick up a few things." Sarah personally took care of his prescription, ensuring that everything was perfect. As she handed him his medication, she said, "Mr. Johnson, I just want to thank you again for forgiving me all those years ago. You taught me a valuable lesson that I will never forget." Mr. Johnson smiled, patting her hand. "You were a good kid, Sarah. You just needed a little nudge in the right direction. And look at you now. You've become a wonderful woman. I'm proud of you." Sarah smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. She knew that she would never forget the day she ripped Mr. Johnson's prescription. It was the day she learned the true meaning of respect, empathy, and the importance of honoring those who have served. And it was the day she truly became a better person. The end.